Sponsored by Sprite. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Just kidding. We're not sponsored by Sprite at all. We do drink it from time to time. We respect it. They quench thirst. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's Showtime. The Matt Weinberg here, as always, with none other than Mr. Showtime. How are you today, sir?
Man, Mr. Showtime is feeling great. I've been traveling all over for the last couple of weeks, getting everything ready for November 11th in Melbourne, Florida. You know what I'm saying? So it's just been exciting for us to bring this all together for you. And then also just, being able to travel. It feels good to travel. It feels good to get out there. Just coming back from, spending some time in Raleigh, North Carolina, which I lived there for a couple of years. So it's been good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm just working way too much, trying to build an empire like always, and wishing I was up there in Raleigh with you because that's where home is kind of for me in a way. Mom lives up there, and I'm up there every couple weeks. And I'm kind of missing the mountains right now. But we have more important fish to fry here in Florida. We have not really a lot to talk about today. Not too much has happened in the last week. A bunch of little bit of rumors and stuff like that here and there, which, Showtime and I kind of took the things that we talked about in our group chat this week and stuff that we thought was interesting to discuss between ourselves, and we're going to talk about it in front of you guys. What you think about that, dude?
Yeah, I'm ready, man. I think there's some few things going on that's pretty exciting still. Not a lot of news, but some really big things in news I think is still brewing out there in the wrestling community.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens, especially after tonight, but we'll get into that. It is Friday, September 23rd, and it is a SmackDown night. We're recording this about 2 hours before SmackDown. Maybe we'll record this, and at the end of this, we'll link to future selves for some reactions to what happens tonight. I think that would actually be pretty cool. So let's get into this. The first and the biggest story in the wrestling world right now is anything and everything that's involving AEW's executive team, Tony Khan, Young Bucks, all of them, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, against none other than CM Punk. Now, through all the grapevines and all the rumors and everyone talking to each other, we have come to learn that there's a possibility that we may never see CM Punk on AEW TV again. There's rumors that we have seen less of him. His contract is going to be bought out. To that, I will say good riddance. I said my piece last week on how I feel about it. I feel that CM Punk, he was great for what he was in WWE, made me believe in the straight edge lifestyle for a very long time as well. And in regards to that, I remember watching him in ROH, remember him going to WWE, and I've slowly but surely over the last couple of years have seen him turn into a villain, and I've seen him more and more turn into Phil. And Phil's a piece of shit. So that's what we're going to do. I think that's the name of the episode. Phil's a piece of shit. That's actually pretty funny because in the former life, I had an episode that basically said, fuck John Cena. So this is great. So as the general manager, Showtime, how does this news come to you? How would you have reacted differently? I know we've talked about it before, how you've almost had to deal with something like this in the past. So what is your take on this?
I mean, man, Matt, this is a terrible situation to be in because you look at it, CM Punk is a good draw for AEW. He's a big name for them as well. But from what we've seen, he's a cancer in the locker room. So you have to figure out, if I am putting on my manager's hat, right, my general manager's hat, and looking at it that way, I got to make money off of this. This is too big for me not to. So for me personally, I wouldn't buy him out. I would, take the time, let him heal his 7 to 8 months. That means he should have around, I think, 3 months left on his contract, and say, okay, this is where we're at. I want to keep you on. You're making more money than you would have made anywhere else you have ever been, more money you made in UFC and anywhere that you've been. So I'm willing to continue and push you another year out for whatever amount of money, but you have to do business with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and all, sit them all down together and say, look, this is where it is. I am the one who writes your checks. I don't give a damn who you think you are. You still work for me. I don't care what your title is. You're either going to do the job the way you are, or I can release you and you can go somewhere else. I mean, the thing is, for Tony, you cannot be the person who gets stuck behind saying, okay, I got to do what everybody wants me to do and whatever wrestler wants me to do, because if I don't get that, I won't have ratings. Well, you have MJF. You have people who can pick the ratings for you. Your ratings didn't dip actually at all. So
no, the ratings didn't dip because MJF is the bigger draw in AEW than CM Punk. I mean, Punk has been the AEW champion twice and has held the title for a solid 9 days.
And I mean, kind of Tony's fault. Tony allowed him to go out there and say whatever he wanted to say. So you got to a point where that should never happen. One, or kayfabe it out. You got to like stop him, tell him not to go. I don't know what you have to do, but
cut his mic. I mean, it's as simple as that. Cut his mic. I mean, you do have great talent. You do have great actors. You do have people that know how to do promos. I mean, look how long it took Roman and WWE to trust Roman not to mess up a promo.
True.
And you have all these people that have been doing their own promo work for years on years in the indies and in other promotions because of the status and the prestige that they have. But some people should just not be given the microphone if they've proven time and time again that they can't have the microphone in front of them, and because they're going to speak their own piece. And as soon as Punk saw an opportunity to get in the business for himself, he took it.
Yep. I mean, I don't even know if cutting the mic would have helped because it was a media scrum. So it's not like he can't talk over it. Like people wouldn't have a recorder there for him.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, I think Tony's not the person who has that authority figure. So I think that's the other thing that you run into is Tony would never be able to do that. And that's where I think Tony's learning the hard way, dealing with wrestlers in the back room, that one, every wrestler wants to be on top. I don't care who you are. I deal with it every day. Every wrestler wants to figure out how to be on top. How can I be the main event? How can I push myself to be higher? Who can I bury to get to that level as well? And Punk's shown that opportunity that he's still a child when it comes to how he does stuff. I know he was pissed off. I get it. And you know what, to be honest, coming from Illinois as well, I'm sure I would have probably did the same thing as Punk. So I can't really hate on him for that. But Tony has to be the one to stop it.
No, but I mean, at the end of the day, you can see the professionalism and the differences between people that are on the EVP status and people that aren't. I mean, look at Kenny Omega 3-4 years ago was the number one wrestler in the world. I mean, there was no doubt about it. And yes, he's taken the back seat to that status, and we're hoping that he comes back to that status. But he made that decision to take a step back to do what's best for the business, to do what's best for AEW, not what's best for Kenny Omega. Same thing with the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks should be tag team title holders right now, right? Chris Jericho has been has been the title holder and all that sort of stuff, but they took a step back because they realized it was a bigger picture than just them. And that's what we're seeing the difference is, the people that want to be in business for themselves and the people that want to be in business for the business itself. Every time we've gone into these situations, it's come up like this, and now we're finding out in other areas of AEW who really isn't aligned with that company and who is. It's very interesting to see how this is all transpired. I mean, we're going from a media scrum with CM Punk and the EVPs to now Malachi Black asked for his release. It was also leaked that as Vince McMahon was leaving and Triple H was coming in, that Triple H contacted a couple of AEW people, and one of those people was Bobby Fish, and then Bobby Fish tried to get Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole to listen and take that call. And basically that's how we're finding out how Tony Khan found out about the WWE tampering status. So this is all blowing up in not the best way. And the only way that I see that they can get away from all this is to actually have solid programming and have solid matches. And they're not doing that right now. So the focus is on the outside world when it needs to be focused in the ring. The focus is on the outside. And you can't run a company like that.
No, I mean, I think Tony has been around football way too long and stuff, where he can control a lot of that because it would happen in the NFL. But in wrestling, man, you got to put a hold on these guys. I mean, I'm happy that he suspended them, which I would have did the same. But I think that at the end of the day, you got to put your foot down and really take care of what you have, because here's the thing. Tampering, it happens. It's one thing in professional sports when it comes to basketball, NFL. That's a whole different thing. When it comes to wrestling, unless he's going to go up, which I highly doubt, what he's going to do, he's going to have to go file a lawsuit against WWE. There's no sanction for that with tampering. So, I mean, yeah, you can go file a lawsuit, but then you're going to spend just as much money as you would have been to pay the person to then go to court to maybe lose. Because, I mean, how do you really show that? How do you
No, you can easily show that if a text message was sent or an email was sent or something like that. It's not all just word of mouth, you know. But I mean, at the end of the day,
that dumb.
Look, and it honestly could have been a message to his people, right? You know, hey guys, I just want to let you know, I know that you left either on your own status or by being fired. You know, I'm just want to let you know things are changing over here. Vince is leaving. Just, you know, my phone is always open if you want to call. And that, you know, it could have been something like that. Like, hey, you know, because you can see Malachi Black is a kind of a Triple H guy. Fish, O'Reilly, Cole, you know, Triple H guys. You know, Miro, Triple H guy. You know, you can see all these people. Karrion Kross, Triple H guy, has already been brought back. Braun Strowman, Triple H guy, already been brought back. So it could have been something as simple as that. You know, now if we see like EC3 and people like that, then definitely that's what's going on. It could have been something as simple as that got taken into the status of, let me know how much it is to buy your contract. Let's go. You know, it's not like he's saying, you just let me know whenever you want to leave. The door's open. Let me know how much it is to buy your contract. Like, they're not doing that. Like I said, I think he's probably just checking up on his people, letting them know that he's in charge now, and it got blown out of proportion. But at the end of the day, too, you talk about the NBA and the NFL and all that, and there's different sanctions, there's different regulations. It doesn't necessarily matter in professional wrestling because they're all independent contractors.
Very true.
They don't get a W-4. They don't get a W-4 like everyone else. They get a 1099. So that basically, they run their own business. They're an independent contractor. So it's a completely different scenario. I mean, if anyone's thinking about canceling a contract and going to another contract, technically, you can't go after WWE. You go after the talent because that's the one that's breaking the contract. WWE ain't breaking no contract with AEW.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Tony has to figure out, first of all, he has his guys, right? So you have the MJFs, I think, would stay around, even though he talks a lot. You have the Darby Allins. You have the Sammys and that. And I think that what he needs to do is take the time to really figure out how to build those guys up and not rely on the rest. First of all, Kenny Omega should not be back. He should be still healing. You didn't need him back, but you had this wacky thing with MJF that made zero amount of, like, it made no sense at all. So now you had to bring him back early. So this would have never happened. One, at least the way it did, because Kenny shouldn't have never been back in the first place to even have this. He should be sitting up. The man looks terrible right now. I mean, you can tell that he is not the Kenny Omega that we've seen, and he's not 100% healthy. And so you got to find other ways to do this. You should have brought MJF back a lot faster if you're going to do all this random stuff and then go from there. But, I mean, he's going to lose to Triple H. That's it. I'm not saying AEW is losing because AEW is not going to lose. But he is going to lose when it comes to him versus Triple H, if that's the route he wants to take. When he keeps talking about, I got more money than, you know, Crockett and blah, blah, blah. Like, you have more money, but you have no respect. And you haven't shown anything in the business for people to give you respect. So why should people sit around for you?
Well, it doesn't even matter about the money in the aspect is you're not showing that you're capable of being creative enough to get a draw. I mean, at the end of the day, your job is to promote, and you're not promoting.
No,
I mean, if you take it down,
it's crazy.
If you take it down for what its simplest aspect of it, you're promoting a show. You have to put on a show. You have in the show, there's storylines, there's athleticism, there's all this sort of stuff. And if you can't promote a show, why are you in the business? There's literally no reason for me to turn into AEW programming. I do not know any matches that are going on. I do not know of what's going on in there unless I see it breaking on Twitter or something like that. There's not a reason for me to really be caring about AEW television right now. But I do want to know what's going on with the Bloodline. I do want to know what's going on with Judgment Day. I do want to know what's going on with the women's title situations. I do want to know what's going on in NXT. I do want to know what's going on with what we're going to get into shortly, which is the White Rabbit situation. You know, there's a ton of different stuff that's going on. I mean, we even talked about last week. We're now invested in Austin Theory, you know, which I never would have thought would have happened 6 months ago. But that's the difference between the two programs right now. AEW's focus on outside the ring, WWE's focus inside the ring, I think is the easiest way to explain it in my mind.
No, I'm with you on that, man. I just think that Tony has a lot of work to do. He got into this thinking his money was going to be the only thing he's going to need. And now he, you know, which nobody could see that Triple H was going to take over. So now that Triple H is here, you can't rely on the money to be the only thing that gets you there because, I mean, again, AEW's production is terrible. Like their stage is terrible, which is not even their stage. They bought it. This stage is terrible. Their firecrackers that they use for fireworks is terrible for pyro. You know, like everything about the production of that is just so low class. It gives me WCW vibes. And, you know, we know
but that's exactly what they were going for. I mean,
which is terrible. Why would you go for somebody who fell apart? Like, that's the dumbest thing, you know, like, let's go ahead. You know what? I'm going to start a company and be like Blockbuster. Blockbuster is where I want to go because that was a good way of going.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a step back here and listen to the great advice of Showtime. Why would I ever go after something that's already fallen apart?
Like it doesn't make any sense. You will look like somebody who fell apart. You produce like somebody who fell apart. You then have all these wrestlers doing all this stuff on their own, going to business for themselves. That is falling apart. You idolize Eric Bischoff, who lost. But like, guys, I get it. You know, Eric's a great mind. You know, I would take nothing away from him for the things he did well. But again, he lost. Okay, so stop bringing up people who failed. Because at the end of the day, you lost.
But Bischoff not only lost to Vince, Bischoff lost to Paul Heyman. Like ECW,
yeah, he lost everybody.
I think ECW is revered higher than WCW. You know, even though that ECW was bought by WWE, I think had certain things not happen. I think ECW could possibly still be around. I don't think WCW could still be around.
No, WCW never made it now. No, especially when you have people like Hall and Nash and Hogan telling you what to do. God, by this time, Hogan would have became a VP of WCW and ran it to the ground even worse.
Oh, God, I couldn't even imagine if Hulk Hogan was bigger than he actually is because
man, him and Kevin Nash almost got together. Oh, God,
we're just gonna stop that conversation right there. We don't need to talk about the Hulkster ever again. But let's stick with AEW for a little bit. We did have this week Saraya, formerly known as Paige in WWE, debuts in AEW. She came out during a segment where Tony Storm and I don't know her AEW name, but her former alias was Ember Moon. We're getting beat up by Dr. Britt Baker. Wow, say that 20 times fast. I can't. And the two other women, I don't remember their names, came out. Saraya did her thing. Comes out, took a look around, brought in. I mean, the crowd reaction was utterly insane. We have to realize that we haven't seen Saraya in a ring in quite some time. She has not been medically cleared to the point where that's why she left WWE. They would not clear her. She's been wanting to wrestle since it's her whole entire life, as we know. Because once upon a time ago, there was a movie where Florence Pugh played Saraya. So, yes, that is correct. Elena in Black Widow and the MCU also played Paige in a movie that The Rock was in. If you didn't know that, welcome to the fun side of history. Great movie. So awesome. Happy for her that she debuted. I am getting a little bit of information from the insides and the scoops and around the grapevine that the reason why there was no actual physicality during her debut segment was because she's still not medically cleared as of AEW. And that'll be very interesting to see and hear what's going to go on with that, because I've already seen the trolls going and saying that her WWE career is better than her AEW career, because when she debuted in WWE, she debuted as a champion.
Yeah, I mean, it's two different things. I think that, yes, that is true, but then I could argue that the opposite of that is she's more popular now than she was when she debuted in WWE. And here's another thing. She's making a whole hell of a lot more money now than she was when she first debuted, too. So I don't think that's a problem with it. I think that, Saraya, Paige, I think I'm happy to see somebody because AEW needs it. They need more women that can go after Jade. My only scare is that I don't think she's healthy. And my other scare is, like, I love Jade. I think she's awesome too, but she's still very green. And you're back to now being in a spot where you can be hurt. And this time being hurt could mean you're paralyzed. Yeah. And that is a thing that I think that I'm very scared about because, I mean, AEW I just don't have faith in AEW to do the right things.
No, I think they're getting there. I think they need to build the talent. I mean, a lot of the AEW locker room is still very green. It's not that the locker room is green. It's that there's a lot of green versus a lot of legendary talent, right? You have people like Saraya that is on that legendary status capability. But I don't think that the rest of the locker room is there. You have a lot of people that worked at WWE that have been held to a higher standard than the rest of the independent wrestling scene. You have a lot of people that have come from all over the world but haven't had the same standards as a WWE wrestler because it's always been looked at as the big show, right? Pun intended. It's funny. I was actually thinking, where the heck has Big Show been? I totally didn't realize that he jumped ship.
You didn't know that? That was a whole big thing. He was supposed to be an announcer for a while, and
I think my brain just like cut that completely out of my brain because it hurt so much because I miss where is the Big Show?
And the 50 times he changed characters from heel to face.
Exactly. I mean, thank God we don't have that anymore, at least. But yeah, I mean, definitely into that. I know I kind of took over this, and I didn't really let you talk about this. So, what is your thought about Saraya?
No, I mean, I got my stuff in, man. I think that it's an awesome to see here and there. AEW definitely needs more women to compete and women that can teach. Because I think that's the biggest thing than anything is that Paige or Saraya can actually teach these women how to be better. You have people like Athena, which has probably the most badass finisher ever. But I think that she was still learning and still getting better in NXT. And so I hope she doesn't forget what she learned there and continue to bring it on.
But she went from NXT to the main roster and then back to NXT, I think, because she got injured. She got injured and then went back to NXT.
Yeah, but I mean, Aaliyah's in main roster, and she shouldn't be anywhere near a wrestling ring. So I mean, going up to the main roster doesn't really mean anything these days.
I mean, she's on the main roster, but she's also been in NXT for like what feels like a decade.
Nah, it hasn't been that long.
Dude, Aaliyah's been there for a while. She was on the last season.
Oh, you mean Aaliyah?
Tough Enough.
So I was thinking of Athena. Yeah, she's been there forever. The thing is, she's not a wrestler. I mean,
you said Aaliyah though.
No, I got that, but I thought you went back to Athena when I was just referring Aaliyah to like show the same thing. It's just because you moved to the main roster doesn't mean you're good. But yeah, Aaliyah's been there forever, but she's still not good. Like nothing against her. I'm really happy with the success she has had, but she is terrible in the ring.
Okay, there you have it. She's terrible. All right, so that kind of closes out the AEW segments for the day for this week. Like I said, there's not really that much that happened, but the big thing that we wanted to talk about today and what we might get into on the future is what is going on with the White Rabbit in WWE. If you've paid attention to social medias, I posted the video that came out, and it basically has a White Rabbit playing Hangman. And the question is, who killed the world? The answer would be you did. But if you pay attention, the first 5 letters that are guessed spell out demon. So there's a bunch of different hits on that. And then it goes to a screen where it just flashes 923 with a White Rabbit going back and forth between white and blue. There's been a lot of red lights being shown during segments with White Rabbit's song being played. So there's a lot of different elements that are coming along on this. So I would like to throw it to you, Showtime. Who do you think this is? What do you think is going on? Are we going to be swerved, or do you think we have an idea of what's actually happening?
Well, there's been a lot of rumors going around. I truly believe that it is Bray. I think that from, listening to a lot of other dirt sheets and other people out there, the biggest thing about Bray for this entire time he's been away was people will reach out to him. He gives them a crazy large number, and that's why nobody really wanted to bring him in. I think that with going back, he always wanted to be in WWE. He never wanted to leave. He just had some mental health issues and things he needed to take care of. I think he's in a very better place, and I think that Triple H has already got that deal done. I don't know that for a fact, but I just feel like this deal has been done for a while, and now it's about bringing him in to then be able to see what's next. I think War Games, Survivor Series is the place that you really showcase him. If you are the person who believes in the White Rabbit and all that other stuff and who those wrestlers are supposed to be, I will just say for you, and I'll send it back to you, but I'll just say that Karrion Kross was a White Rabbit in Lucha Underground. I'm just saying. So it makes a lot of sense. And the other thing is you need somebody for the bloodline. I think it's perfect right there. And if Triple H can pull this off the way I think he will, this is just the best time in wrestling, man. Since back in the day with WCW and WWF, this is the best time in wrestling I've seen in a very, very long time. And I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting time. For those of you who don't know what we're actually getting into, there was a theory posted a couple days ago. I'm sorry, I don't remember who had posted it, but it basically was showcasing that Bray Wyatt is coming back as the leader of a new stable, and it would be the Firefly Funhouse come to life. So obviously Bray would be Bray. The White Rabbit, which what was his name? What was the rabbit's name? No, what was the rabbit's name?
Oh, didn't know he had a name. I just called him the White Rabbit.
So would go to Karrion Kross because Karrion Kross was formerly known as the White Rabbit, and he can play that part pretty well. It's been, I don't remember what character Braun Strowman's supposed to be, but Braun Strowman wearing black and red as his new ring attire is also now being thrown into the mix that he's a part of the stable as well. And then Dexter Lumis, who's been tormenting The Miz for the last couple weeks, which has been absolutely fantastic, is actually a part of the stable too as Mercy the Buzzard. And then where we in this group disagree, there's Abby the Witch. Now, Abby the Witch for me can go both ways at either Alexa Bliss, because she's basically been playing that part for the lack of better 2 years now. Or it would go to Scarlett Bordeaux, who is accompanying Karrion Kross. Personally, I would like to see Alexa still continue that. I think that dynamic is really good. She's been playing that character, and I would love to see Scarlett go off to do something for her. She is an amazing talent. She is not just a talking piece or a manager piece. I think she could actually do some really good damage, especially in that SmackDown Women's title division. Her versus Liv Morgan would be chef kiss. So that's what we're getting into. Now, I'll throw out another crazy theory to you, and it's a wrestler that we know personally, but Adam Rose also used to hang out with a White Rabbit.
I have, you know what? I've heard that a few times. I don't know if that's really the way we're gonna go. Hoping not that way, but no, I'm with you. I think Scarlett is the one that becomes a witch, just because I know before they left, Vince had her doing dark matches as well, because she is obviously a wrestler too. So they were doing some dark matches out there. I don't think you need her to get into a lot of stuff. I like the character she is. I don't care if I ever see a wrestler wrestle. I mean, I just think that she is a great character. But I'm also not opposed to Alexa Bliss going back. I just think the problem with Alexa Bliss is you finally got her out of that character, and I don't know why you put her back in that role. I'm not really sure what else she does, because she played the hell out of that role. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know if you bring her back into the fold again, because then she had a lot of backlash last time she was in that with Bray.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be able to see what happens with that. I think, especially with the direction they've been putting Alexa the last couple of weeks, I think it's safe to say that she's not a part of this. But she needs to get the doll away from her.
I understand the doll thing.
I think seeing Alexa Bliss come back to being Alexa Bliss, the women's champion Alexa Bliss, I think would be great. Just like how I've been waving the flag for get rid of Nikki Ash, get her out of that superhero costume and bring her back to being Nikki Cross or whoever the heck she wants to be, but let her be her. Let people get back to who they're supposed to be and not what Vince thought they should have been. We've talked about numerous occasions, the best characters in wrestling is when they're themselves but turned up to 11.
Yep.
And we both agree with that. That's how we run our shows and our lives and everything like that. When we have to turn it on and be our people, we're us, but we're at 11. I am the Matt Weinberg. That is my name. It's been my name since the day I was born, and when we're on, it's just us. That's it, and I think we're going to get back to that. I mean, you can see that with people getting their names. Theory is now Austin Theory. Gargano is Johnny Gargano. Ciampa is Tommaso Ciampa. I mean, hell, Mustafa Ali is Mustafa Ali again. So I think we're going in the right direction with this. I truly believe, though, if we do not see Bray Wyatt tonight, it's going to be a swerve. And I think people will be very upset.
Yeah. At this point, you have to give them what they're asking for. Otherwise, what was the purpose of all this? Because now you're just trolling. And I cannot see Triple H or team. I won't just say Triple H by himself, but I can't see them doing all that to not make something happen. You know what I mean? Like, there are some things that Vince McMahon was really good at, and some things that Vince McMahon said and did that made a lot of sense still to this day. And one of the things he's always said is never put up something that you're not going to uphold. That's why he never liked people to talk about matches they were never going to do or never going to happen, those kind of things, because you're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, if you don't, we're both in business. Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. I mean, like I said, I never started this or any podcast or any business venture looking to be the number one podcast or the number one business venture, right? If we made the top 50, I'd be happy. But we're going to be number one. Under promise, over deliver. That's it.
That's what I like to hear, man. So I'm you know what? I'm rubbing off on you, man. I'm rubbing off on you. That's Showtime mentality.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do just want to point this out that on multiple occasions, Showtime has just told me that he wants to be me when he grows up.
This is true. I wish I had that voice that you had, man, But then again, I couldn't be as evil as I am now if I was spoken.
I'm just going to hello, people. How are you? Welcome to the show. Should I talk like this now? No, because I'm not like that. This is my show, and we're going to do it this way.
You would be very good at ASMR, though. You should probably look into that as another future endeavor for you.
See, the thing is, people, I'm not this quiet. And if I were to start eating as ASMR, it would be very weird, but we can be sensual.
I've watched some eating ASMRs, and I do not understand what people think or why they like that. But you know what? To each his own. I'm not hating on y'all. Y'all do whatever you need to calm yourself and get yourself to sleep. but that is super. I guess for me is the fact of somebody on the screen and you can see them eating. It'd be different if it was like a blank screen and you could just hear them. Maybe that would be calming. But like I'm watching you eat, and I don't know why that would make me fall asleep. I just don't get it.
What's interesting is like I'll watch people eat all the time, like on TV, but like I like watching people go to restaurants and trying them and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
like,
mukbangs, I like those.
Mukbangs and stuff like that. But like I think hearing people chew or like gulping and slurping and like ugh, there's only one or two people on the planet that I ever want to hear those noises from, and it would be me and my partner.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Weird. It's kind of weird. But that's just me.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not gonna say weird. I'm sorry, guys, for you guys out there who love it. It's not weird. It's not my thing.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks. People like that, like ASMR, and we like getting our feelings hurt by Triple H every single week by when he not listens to us.
He listens. He does it on his own time.
He does.
That's all it is.
He does. I'm waiting for the pipeline to go from my brain to my mouth, or my brain to my fingers to a text message to Hunter, and then Hunter, his eyeballs, his brain onto TV. That's the pipeline that we're going to go for. And I'm going to put it out into universe that Triple H and Paul Heyman are guests on this show at one point. I'm putting it out into the universe. Man. It's going to happen.
Yep.
We're going to go. So sure. Moving on, let's get into the final piece that we wanted to talk about today, because people, ladies and gentlemen, there wasn't a lot, so we're having fun. We're feeling pretty good. We're just catching up, having a grand old time today. But so NXT was taped this past week, which is why we haven't really wanted to talk about anything too much. But it opens up with Solo Sikoa having to relinquish his NXT North American title because he was not sanctioned for that match, and he's not a current NXT superstar. This then sets up a 5-person ladder match at Halloween Havoc to decide a new North American champion. Carmelo Hayes is completely devastated and upset, as he should be. He should have never lost that title. It was a non-sanctioned match, but boy, you got your butt kicked. So let's go with that. Showtime, I know that you are a huge Carmelo fan. How does this make you feel? What's going on in your mind? Are you even excited to see Halloween Havoc now, or should they just have given Carmelo the belt back?
Well, shout out to the homie Carmelo. I'm super upset, bro. Like, I don't understand what the purpose of this was. Here's why. And this could be for anybody, not just because, Carmelo's the boy. It really comes down to the fact of you just made your champion look weak. You had him lose to somebody who came back, and it wasn't. He's been in the main roster for a little bit, but we still look at Solo as an NXT guy, right? Have him come down, he wins. I'm thinking, okay, you're doing this because now the bloodline will have all the belts, and then you just flip it back around. So you make him lose for what reason? I'd much rather have had them put Solo or whoever they're going to give it to, because I don't know where they're going to go next with it. Just have a ladder match and let Carmelo lose there, because he still looks strong compared to the way they did it. So, like, they're just killing Carmelo. If that's the case, well, you wouldn't do that for Bronn Breaker, so why would you do that for the North American title?
Because the North American title is secondary. I think they don't view it as that. I think Carmelo was doing such a great job that people were looking at him as better than Bronn Breaker, which we've talked about. And I think we're going to very quickly see a change in Braun. He just had a fantastic match with Tyler Bate. Now he's going to move on to number one contender JD McDonough. And Dragunov is right there on the coattails too. Dragunov, sorry, not Dragunov. Mixing those a little bit.
I was going to let you run.
I'm thinking about Rocky Balboa. So if he dies, he dies. So, it's something like that where we've been talking about the last couple of weeks that there's going to be a pendulum shift in NXT. And we're looking forward to seeing what that entails and what that means. But I think that this was the first step in the shakeup of what's going to be the shakeup of NXT. It's been reported that there is going to be a WWE draft, probably sometime after the Royal Rumble or after Mania, which is going to be really cool to see. But I don't understand why you put the belts on him to take the belt off of him. I feel like it made more sense to keep the belt on him, because then it forces Sami Zayn to either step up and get some gold or get out of the bloodline.
Yeah, there's so many ways you can go with that.
Which realistically, he is on SmackDown, so the only other title that he can go after right now is the IC title. And we would get Gunther versus Sami Zayn,
which would be amazing.
That would be very interesting to see. So if that does happen, your boy predicted it. So all I'm saying. But I don't think we're going to get there. I think we're going to see, if the bloodline splits, it's going to be because of Sami and Kevin Owens, or it's going to be the bloodline turning on Jay because of how he's been treating Sami.
And can I just say before we go farther, I'm going to talk to Shawn Michaels for a second. Shawn, if you're listening to me, man, please do not kill your talent in NXT to try to put over some UK guys. And then the flip side of it, don't kill the UK guys that you're going to move to Europe and get them to be beat all the time. And that's all we see going forward either. I feel like, the new Bronn Breaker going up against UK guys consistently. Like, first of all, I'm not really sure. Tyler Bate lost, right? That's fine. He would be the number one contender because he was a UK champion. But then you go back to JD now, who's already lost to Bronn. Why are we continuing to keep going back and forth and filtering and then destroying those guys who then are going to go to Europe? I mean, it's just killing it. It's killing it.
I don't think that's the plan. I think honestly he's using the UK guys to build Bronn by putting on, crazy hard fought matches, which most of that locker room I think can't do or won't do the way that Bronn really needs to be shown. So yeah, Bronn is going to go through run rickshaw through the UK talent, but it's going to help him build his legacy as a champion. Like we've been talking, Bronn is not a main event champion. Mello was the main event champion, or heck, Mandy is the main event champion. I would much rather see Mandy Rose as the main event than Bronn Breaker as the main event. And we've seen Bronn Breaker open pay-per-views as the NXT champion. You don't put your biggest draw as the opening. You don't. And like I said, Bronn's not the biggest draw in NXT right now. To me, it's Mandy Rose. But I disagree with you on that aspect that he can totally beat every single UK person and it won't affect the UK people. It's only going to make him look better while building up the UK brand. And you have the capability to do that. People can come in, have a feud for a month, and then move on, and we'll never see him again because they're going to go off to Europe.
Well, I think the scary part is if you're in the crowd, what you see, if you notice it, is they turn on Bronn. So I don't think it's getting the positive effect that they would look for because it's not believable that Bronn, after being around for 6 months, is going to beat JD, Tyler Bates, Dragunov, whoever else that comes in. It's just them now forcing you to have Bronn win. And I don't know that goes the right way.
So do you think that we're getting into a Roman Reigns situation with Bronn Breaker where he's being forced to us?
Because that's the only thing WWE knows what to do with them. And it's not, in the crowd is split. When Tyler Bates came out, I don't know if they didn't really show probably all of it, but the crowd was like 90% behind Tyler Bates, not behind Bronn at all. And the same thing with JD came out the first time. Everybody was really on side of JD's side, not Bronn. So I think to your point, he's not the main event right now in NXT. You're only pushing him farther away. Whereas with Mandy, that's the opposite. She has proven now, especially that last match, that she can be one of the top ones, one of the top champs. Where Bronn, he hasn't proved it, and it's not his fault. It's the way they book him. They have not booked him in a way for me to be convinced of him being that person. We all knew Tyler was going to lose. I called it. I'm like, here you go. Oh, he's going up, spear in. Like, it's just too predictable right now.
So I think that's why they inserted Dragunov, because I think that can go to a triple threat match, which puts more pressure on Bronn, but it also alleviates a lot of what we're talking about because Bronn doesn't have to necessarily be pinned to lose the belt in that situation. And the same thing there. Either one of them can pin JD McDonough, and it still sets up Bronn versus Dragunov or whatever you want to do. You can even have, if Dragunov is truly back on with Imperium, as we saw at Worlds Collide, then you can have an Imperium interfere in that match, and you can have Braun possibly drop the title and then move the SmackDown to go for the IC title. There's a bunch of different things that you can do with that, but I don't think there's really anybody on the NXT roster right now that can hold that mantle of someone that has the belt that's being chased. And I think Braun can handle being chased.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I just think that he's an oddball out in these situations when you look at what they do. And then here's the other thing else I'll say about it that just for my eyes threw me off is, I mean, I've been around Braun, but he's not that big of a guy. Like, he's stocky, don't get me wrong, but he's short. And when you look at it, you put him up there against JD, which is a cruiser weight, by the way, and they're the same eye to eye. That also, I think, will hurt him when you get into like the main roster, because I want to see what he looks like up against, like if you put Roman next to him, and that kind of things, how that looks as well. But like a Drew would look like a giant, in that scenario. And so that's another thing. I don't mind the size, but that is something that, can look a little bit different when you look at those two together, as Braun is this big, strong person, and they're building him to be that in NXT, but then he gets to the main roster, he might be shorter than Sami Zayn.
I think they need to change Braun because, I mean, even he spent all last week during that number one contender match hyping up both people. Like, oh, I really hope Tyler Bate wins because we had a great match last time. Oh, I really hope JD McDonough wins because I've already known that I can beat him. Like, either you're a champion and you're a fighting champion, you put that thing on, you put that thing as a risk every single week, week in and week out, or turn him heel. Stop having him play to the fans. The fans are already split, right? Make him more interesting.
He needs to be his uncle. That's what he needs. He needs to be Scott Steiner.
He needs to stop being Rick and start being Scott.
That's what he needs. And it doesn't even like Rick at all times weren't always heel. He just acts like one. He's like in between. Yeah. And I think that's what they need from Braun, is just to be there, because that's another thing, man. He looked terrible being on commentary. He just didn't know what to say. I think that's what it comes down to. He had no clue what to say.
The thing is, I mean, they pan to him every couple minutes, and his reaction's just like, oh.
Yeah. He had no clue what to do in that scenario.
It was like if I'm sitting in commentary and, at the next Riot event, and Showtime doesn't like what's going on. He quickly goes, "Hey, Matt, react like this." And that's exactly what I do because he's writing the checks, right? So, it was almost like,
on though.
It was almost say. It was almost like he had an earpiece and they were just telling him to look like an idiot, which that might be his thing. I don't really know. But like I said, I'm not invested into Braun as a champion, and having him act like that doesn't get me involved even more. I think he needs to come out and lay a scathing promo on how he's upheld this title. He's been the best. No one's paid attention to him. It was proven that Carmelo wasn't the best champion. He proved that he's the best champion because he hasn't lost a championship, so forth and so on, and build that and turn on the fans, and that would actually make people interested in him.
Yep.
I don't really have anything else more to say about that.
Just be Scott. That's all I can say is be Scott Steiner. Go back to making him a Steiner. Hopefully, when he moves up, I don't have a problem with him being Bronn Breaker, but I would love to see him as Bronn Steiner and just give him back his last name and let him be that person where he doesn't have to be a heel, but he can be cocky. He can be confident, and that's what I wanted to hear from him on commentary as well. Is, man, I've been in the ring with JD, and he did a little bit at the end, but I've been in the ring with JD, but I beat his ass. And I'm going to beat his ass again. It doesn't really matter who comes up. Tyler was a tough opponent too, but guess what happened? He fell to me as well. I break people. That's what I wanted. That's a good problem. See?
Oh, that's what he should be doing. Literally, his name is Bronn Breaker. He hasn't broken shit.
Yeah, and he's athletic though. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
The man has came a long way, and I'm excited to see how he grows. I just don't know if NXT can do it, but he's not ready for main roster. So he's kind of like that in between. I don't know if he's ready for that main roster yet. Like when you look at how they perform, go back to WrestleMania time when they were in a big stadium back outside of Orlando. They did not get a reaction that we should have, and I don't blame him. So just so all the listeners are hearing me, I'm not blaming Bronn Breaker. I blame Sean and everybody in NXT that's not setting him up, I think, for success, because the way he comes out, breaking, like the last time he came out with a chainsaw and cut like half of an neck. I don't even know what the purpose was that for, but like the little cheesy things he does, he reminds me of a mascot in the NBA. That's exactly what he sounds. That's what he comes out and he is, like goofy little cheesy things that mascots do, pouring popcorn in somebody's head, that kind of stuff. So I would like to see Bronn become a major player where he's more cocky, he's more confident. He is the biggest dude out there. Nobody's going to come to him, and he's going to break you if he needs to. That's what I want to see him as. If he can do that, he's going to be something big. I think that he could be a good mid-card guy. I don't know if I see him as a champion yet. That remains to be seen. But he could be a formidable, great IC or US title holder. You give him that.
I think I agree with that. Like I said, I don't think he's a main event type of champion as of right now, but they need some serious building of him in order for him to be successful in my eyes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave the top stories at that. I do want to take a moment and talk about something for the future. I've had an idea in my mind of truly being a host. I want to get into more interview styles. I want to get into bringing wrestlers and stuff like that and doing something a little bit different than any other podcast that just sits here and reviews what happened in the week and talk about the news and predict, what's going to happen in pay-per-views and stuff like that, like we normally do. But I want to spice it up a little bit. Seeing as Showtime is a general manager of a wrestling promotion, we have a mutual friend that basically lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes wrestling since he was a little kid. And I would like to pin them up against each other. So
we all know who's going to win, by the way, just so you know, but continue.
I mean, his name is on the show. He pays the bills for it. So, so I want to throw it out there that I will be hosting a debate, and the debate topic is going to be set by me, and each person is going to give us how they would set this up. So for future episodes, I threw them the idea of, it's estimated that Cody Rhodes is coming back for the Rumble, right? The Rumble's in January, WrestleMania is in April. How do you book Cody Rhodes' return from the Royal Rumble through WrestleMania? That is the question I propose to them. We will find out how that goes next week. But just as a little bit of a teaser, I do want to take a second and kind of just go back and forth with Showtime as if it was that segment. But we're going to talk about where we go next with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Are we going to keep it on Austin Theory? How do we intertwine this Kevin Owens, Johnny Gargano situation that they're developing there? And then we'll close out the show. So I'm ready if you are, Showtime.
Oh, Showtime's always ready. I love a good debate because I like to hurt people's feelings. It's kind of what I do. So, it's going to be a great time to hear from a mastermind like myself and then somebody who's a lower peasant on the other side. But it's okay, though. It's all right, though. I'm sure that he will hold his own for a little bit against the Showtime.
I mean, your brain is genius, but don't count out the elderly. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure our guest was there, in person when it was Ric Flair versus Steamboat, right there in the central crowd. I believe he was there. I believe he was there when Dusty Rhodes famously said, "I've dined with kings and queens, and I've eaten franks and beans." I think he was there at the recording studio. So he's been around the block a couple times, and it'll be a very interesting situation. But I'll propose it to you. How would you book let's just say 2 Extreme Rules, where we go with a Money in the Bank contract?
I mean, for me, I think that, in my mastermind, you have to look at where we want to go. So if I'm deciding that Sami Zayn and KO are going to be going against the Usos, then I pivot over to Austin Theory versus Johnny Gargano. And from there, I move it to Johnny Gargano. I think that that's the better route to go. Austin Theory, now we're at a point where we're doing damage control with Austin Theory from what Vince started him out to be. I just don't think he's there yet. Either way, I don't think that changes anything, but I much rather can have a more exciting match and go with Johnny Gargano. And now listen to me, still not going to get the belt. So either way, I don't think either one of them get the belt, but I think it's more formidable and I can get around that without hurting Austin Theory as I repackage him and get him back on track. I can have Johnny Gargano lose and be okay with that, and he won't lose any of his momentum for what he's doing because we're looking at him as more of a mid-card guy anyway. And at some point, I'm bringing DIY back together. I'm bringing Johnny and Ciampa together and doing that thing again. But, that's the route I would go with that just because right now we've destroyed Austin Theory, I think, enough. I think he's an exceptional guy. I've watched him even before he got in the indies and stuff as well. I just don't think that he's the right person to move forward with at this moment because he's going to lose. And why would you hurt the future? This guy is too good to be the future to halt him right now. Or throw it to The Miz. The Miz is another person you can move it to. Just you got to get away from Austin at this point.
Yeah, I think I do agree with that we do need to get the Money in the Bank contract off of Austin Theory. But I have a little bit different of a scenario in my head.
What you got?
I do like the idea of Kevin Owens being involved in this. I do like the idea of Gargano being involved with this. I don't think we're at the point yet where we're going to see a Gargano and Ciampa situation either against each other or acting together yet. I believe that Ciampa and The Miz is working what it's supposed to be doing. But I think there's going to be a point, and we'll probably see it either at Extreme Rules or right before or after it. They might start leading into it this week or next week. Roman is supposed to appear tonight on SmackDown and speak. So I would use that as an opportunity to make the bloodline step up. Right? Hey, I have to step up. I have to defend this title against Logan Paul now because he spoke and boom, 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 and go through his thing. And Heyman's talking. And then he looks at the Usos and goes, you guys are doing your part. You have had the tag team championships on lock just as long as I've had the, undisputed championship belt on lock. Solo, you almost did your part, but you came up short because you had to give it back. We got to get you some gold. And Sammy, what do you bring to the table? And I think that in itself makes Sammy go, whoop, whoop. You flip the switch on Sammy, and Sammy goes and acts like he's going to try and go be friends with Kevin Owens, only to insert himself into a ladder match for Extreme Rules that is going to be for the Money in the Bank briefcase, and it will be Austin Theory versus Kevin Owens versus Johnny Gargano versus Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn wins the Money in the Bank contract. Then he goes back to Roman and Paul the next week on SmackDown and says, I did my part. Here's the Money in the Bank contract. So now no one until the next Money in the Bank can challenge our tribal chief. And even to that point, he can even give the briefcase to Paul, give the briefcase to Roman, or you act like he's going to cash it in. You have him flip, and they play us. They play us. I don't remember off the top of my head what the next pay-per-view after Extreme Rules is. Probably is Survivor Series, right?
Yeah, Survivor Series War Games, whatever they're calling it now.
Well, it's Survivor Series War Games because it is Survivor Series, but we're going to get a Survivor Series match, I believe, plus a War Games match, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
So you can even have the Bloodline versus, let's say, the Firefly Funhouse stable that's coming potentially, and you can have Sammy right after that match goes cash in the Money in the Bank contract. only to just lie down and let Roman pin him.
See, I don't know if I like that part of it. I like where you were going though with it before, handing it over, and then what if he hands it to Roman, but the contract's not in there, so he keeps the contract himself. I don't think you have him lie down per se. Yeah, and that kind of kills the story. But I do like the fact of him having the Money in the Bank, and even holding on to it maybe, and just saying, "Now nobody can go against your tribal chief." I like all that. That's good storytelling right there, man.
Because I think at that point, if that were to happen, then the bloodline wouldn't turn on Sammy. They would most likely turn on Solo, because Solo doesn't have a belt. So Solo would have to go after the IC title, which would put him up against Gunther, which would be really dope to see. And I'd rather see Solo go up against Gunther than see Sammy go up against Gunther.
I don't know about that, man. I like Sammy a little bit better. I think that Solo and Gunther's styles clash a lot, and Gunther seems to do really well with like more cruiserweight type of guys. It's just hard for me to go the other way outside of Sammy. Is just an awesome dude.
I can prove you wrong with one statement. The last match that Gunther had with Sheamus isn't the cruiserweight by far. That was a hard-hitting match, and that was probably the best match we've seen all year.
Yeah.
Fact. And so I think that would be really cool because Solo is more strong style. He's hard-hitting. He moves quick. He's like the best of both worlds of the Usos and their high-flyingness, and Roman with his power. It's like, maybe he's like his dad, Rikishi, just in shape.
He's like a Umaga, honestly. Like Solo reminds me of Umaga so much, which is pretty badass.
A more in shape Umaga for sure. Yeah. And I mean, Umaga was great. I loved him versus Cena. That was absolutely insane. That was like the height of me loving wrestling as a child. So I definitely like that idea. I definitely see that idea. But I think having that set up where one of them, either Sammy or Solo, goes against Gunther, I think that sets up Imperium versus the Bloodline for Survivor Series. If they don't,
you still need more people for Imperium, though. You only got 3.
That's where the Brawling Brutes come in, because the Brawling Brutes are facing the Usos tonight on SmackDown.
So then you take that feud and move them to be together. I'm all for Pete Dunne. First of all, I hope Pete Dunne.
So here's how I would say that. I mean, that match with Gunther and Sheamus, all you got to do is have Sheamus go to Gunther and say, "Hey, that was a hell of a match that we had. You've earned my respect."
Okay.
You guys are from Europe. We're from the UK. Or Ireland, or, wherever they want to say they're from. You're from the UK, we're from the UK. We should work together instead of trying to break each other down. And hell, you can even have McIntyre involved in that too. I think it's getting way too out of proportion if you do something like that. But that could be a way to get McIntyre back into the conversation versus Roman. Because
I think you only need 4 too, because I don't know if Roman does that. I don't think Roman does that pay-per-view. That's the next thing is.
That's true.
I don't see him being a part of the pay-per-view.
So, I mean, you could just have the Usos, Solo, and Sammy?
Yep.
And I think that goes into the involvement of, we've been waiting for Naomi and Sasha to come, and I would much rather see them be separated. I think Raw needs a lot of help with their women's division more than SmackDown does right now. Or, sorry, scratch that. Raw has help with Bayley and all that now, but there really isn't anyone that Liv can go up against. So, like I said before, I'd like to see Scarlett versus Liv. I would also love to see Sasha versus Liv. I think that would be really cool to see. And put Naomi with the Bloodline. I think that would be really cool to see a more intense version of Naomi, and not, feel the glow, happy vibes, but give me, I'm going to beat your ass vibes from Naomi. I think that would be really cool to see. I think that she can more than definitely handle that. And that would allow more play with Judgment Day. That would allow more play with this potential Firefly Funhouse with Scarlett Bordeaux. I think that brings out a lot. Now, the only gripe I have about this scenario is You now have Bloodline. You now have Judgment Day. You now have this new one. You have Legato. You have the Brawling Brutes. You have Imperium. You have the New Day. You have a stable problem. There's a problem where you have more stables in WWE than you do have actual tag teams. And that's where I don't know how you go to that. I think that's where you fill in your third hour of Raw, realistically.
You bring in your NXT people. I think that's where you need to go to get your tags up.
You can bring NXT people in, but you can't gut NXT to help out the main roster when the main roster is huge. I mean, did we have that discussion? I don't think we had the discussion for the people, but there was a discussion that we had in here real quick. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on, people. I'm so sorry, people. All right, here we go. So I did a little bit of research the other day when we were having some talks. So as of right now, you have Dolph Ziggler, Bobby Roode, Ezekiel, Mustafa Ali, Shelton Benjamin, and T-Bar are the only active Raw superstars that are currently healthy and not actively in a program and or tag team stable. And we were talking about this in regards to who we would like to see as Bobby Lashley's next opponent, because that's a whole other discussion that we'd like to get into as well, how you book Bobby Lashley. So if you look at that, I think there's only probably two people on that I could actually believe has a chance against Roman, and that would be T-Bar and Ezekiel. I don't think Ezekiel is anywhere close to Roman's status. I think T-Bar, if they bring him back to what he was in NXT, could go against Roman.
Kovic, man, that was a bad boy right there. That's a good one. And just so you know, I've heard rumors that Ezekiel wasn't coming back or leaving. I don't know how true or not true that is, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you. You don't have a lot of people. You gotta wait till Cody gets back. I mean, you have to kind of make, and I think that's what we're seeing. They are trying to just get through the time with Roman here and there. You have the Logan Paul that's gonna hold you off for another like month or so and some change, and then you wait till after the Rumble and go from there.
When is Crown Jewel? Do you know?
I do not.
Crown Jewel 2022 is going to be what day? Wow, it just says 2022. Okay, November 5th. So you really only you're going to get past Extreme Rules and Survivor Series before we get to Crown Jewel, basically. So we have 2 months of Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns almost. That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to have something to fill that gap in there and also fill in afterwards.
Well, you don't. I think that for Roman, you have him go up against Crown Jewel to Logan Paul, and then you rest him. I don't think you have him do much else for the year because there's not much left, and you get him ready for day one. That's when you bring him back in.
So it just depends on what they're going to do. I mean, if they truly are going to run Firefly Funhouse versus the Bloodline, you kind of need Roman involved. But I also think that they can get to a point of you have the puppet master, which is Bray Wyatt, versus the head of the table, but they're controlling their people, and you have almost a war situation. You have your generals, and they're leading their troops. So you can go back and forth of Dexter Lumis versus Solo. You can have tag team of Karrion and Strowman versus the Usos. You can do different things back and forth, but nobody ever touches Bray or Roman until they actually get involved at War Games or elsewhere. Because I think you can immediately put Bray in against Roman for the title.
God, please don't, though. I like Bray. I do not want him to get for a title.
I don't think you do it. I don't think you do it as you can't do this as a Fiend, because I don't think the Fiend can ever lose. When the Fiend loses, things go ape. But you can have a Bray puppet master, if you will, go and enter into that reality. All the kinks in my brain haven't been worked out in regards to how you do that, but I guess we'll find out. My guess is that they are going to wait until 9/23 to make this debut. So it is 7:16 right now. So we'll see in about 2 hours and 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, based on the pay-per-view, the way it's set up, you can just wipe Extreme Rules out of that, because Extreme Rules is in like 2 weeks. And then Crown Jewels is after that, and then Survivor Series is left.
But the thing is, we don't have any matches announced for Extreme Rules. We have Bayley versus Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title. I'm assuming we're going to do Dakota Kai, Io Sky versus Alexa and Asuka for the tag team titles, or something else that sets up future. Maybe you have a Toxic Attraction interfering in that situation. And where it hasn't been announced yet, but there are rumors that we're getting a fight pit match for Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle. But
it's going to be amazing.
So as of right now, we have 2 matches, and it's 2 weeks away. So
yeah, we can't do Roman in anything, though.
No, you're not.
Now you've already set him up.
You're not going to get Roman in doing anything. You've set him up for Crown Jewel, 100%, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't show up at Extreme Rules for whatever situation is going to happen. I think tonight we might see something interesting with the Brawling Brutes and the Usos. As I said before in my dream booking scenario, I think that can turn into something interesting. That could be the spot where we see this new stable come to life. That would be very interesting. It'll put everyone on notice. And you can even run the Brawling Brutes versus this new stable up until Survivor Series, or you can run it for the next 2 or 3 weeks past Extreme Rules and then insert the Bloodline into that scenario.
So do you add Drew to the Brawling Brutes then? Do you still need one more person?
So not if you add the Brawling Brutes to Imperium. And you could add Drew into that faction. Like I said, I personally would much rather see Judgment Day, but I don't think they're ready for that sort of deal, versus the Bloodline rather than, the Brawling Brutes or whatever. Like I said, I think you could easily have Sheamus go to Gunther and say, "Hey man, you've earned my respect. I think we can do this again, and these boys just picked a fight with us. I'd like you to be on my, if you are willing, I'd like to have you on my side." Because we haven't seen Gunther as a face. We haven't seen Imperium as a face. They've always kind of been heelish in that borderline aspect. So that would be a way to do that. And especially since Roman is a face, technically, you need to have more heels chasing the face. All right, bro, you're turning into Incredible Hulk.
Oh, yeah. Because the light's going on.
So, wow, dude, we're closing in on an hour and 15 minutes. So I think it's time for some final thoughts. Anything you want to add for the week ahead? Anything?
Hey, just as always, November 11th, Melbourne, Florida. Riot Pro Wrestling is coming back again. So tickets are not out yet, but they will be coming up here very soon as well. Make sure you're going on Riot Pro Wrestling's Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram. You can figure out all the stuff going on. You can also go to my Instagram page as well, the Mr. Showtime, Twitter, the Mr. Showtime as well. So you have other ways to kind of keep up with Riot Pro Wrestling. If you're in the Florida area, it's going to be amazing. So always be ready for Riot Pro Wrestling coming to a city near you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Everyone, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us again. We have some great things planned in the future. I mean, I know we're going to be jet setting all over the place. We have Riot Pro Wrestling on November 11th. We have Crown Jewel November 5th. So, it's going to be a nice flight to Saudi Arabia back and forth for the both of us. Just kidding. We are not going to Saudi Arabia. I will be on my couch, probably next to Showtime, and we'll just be shooting the shit the whole entire time. Maybe we'll do something with that. Who knows? But like I said, we're going to end this here now. We have about an hour before SmackDown starts. We'll be talking. We might post a video about our reactions for whatever the White Rabbit is, but also we might just jump back on here and do a closing segment, little after effect, just to do something a little bit different. So again, as always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us here on It's Showtime. Thank you for all the love and the support that we've gotten. We are a top 150 podcasts in sports on Apple. Can't thank you enough for that. Please like this, share us with your friends, leave comments. We want to know what we're doing right, what we're doing bad. What do you want to hear from us? What do you want to see? If you have any Riot Pro Wrestling wrestlers that you want to see us interview, Booyah Club, I want to see that happen. I'd like to facilitate the conversation of Remy possibly becoming a Mr. Showtime guy, or maybe I can convince him to become the Matt Weinberg guy, because everyone needs a smart Jew in their life. With that being said, I'm going to end this ASMR style. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to end this by saying Phil Brooks is an asshole. Have a great night, people. See y'all next week.
It's showtime.